Call to order the regular session of the Gladstone City Commission. First order of business will be the invocation said by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be said by Commissioner Olson. Can everybody remove their hats, please, and please rise?
Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this beautiful day, this introduction to spring, the slow, gradual thaw that we're seeing to prevent the flood. We also want to thank you for all the people that have turned out tonight. We hope that the business tonight is in your favor, your guidance. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next order of business will be the roll call, please.
Mayor Hunter,
Here.
Commissioner Gay,
Here.
Commissioner Mackey,
Here.
Commissioner Mattinen,
Here.
and Commissioner Olson.
Here.
We're all here. Commissioner Mattinen, how was your trip? Okay. All right, before we get started on the public comment, if we could, I know it's not posted, but please make sure that our cell phones are at least turned on vibrate. Right, that way it just allows everybody the opportunity when there's talking not to be interrupted. I appreciate that, okay? Okay, next item will be the public comment. This will be a time for the public to step up. I'd ask that they step to the podium, state your name, and since we do have such a big crowd, I am going to ask, what was our limit, 3? Yep, 3 minutes. So we could hold to 3 minutes, it'd be great. If you do have a spokesperson that wants to give a little bit longer and only one goes up to the podium, that's fine too, I don't have a problem with that. But if we could just limit it because we do have such a big crowd, okay? I appreciate that. Thank you. Public comment, floor is open.
Hello, I'm Bob Peterson. I'm chairman of the local Delta County Gun Owners Association. I'd like to thank the Gladstone City Council for hearing us out today. I won't be giving the resolution. I'm just kind of here as a individual right now. I'd like to say that we regret the unfortunate loss of life that occurred in the recent mass shootings and the pain of the families. Tonight, we may hear testimony to inspire emotional response from all of you. However, emotions will not solve this disaster. The truth is that we want to address these catastrophes, we must look at facts. Cities that have the toughest gun laws are the ones with the most violent crimes, like Chicago, New York, and our own capital, Washington, D.C. According to a recent study by John Lott, Jr. of Yale University Law School and William N. Landis of University of Chicago Law School, state that in the last 20 years, all of the shootings classified as mass shootings, except for one, the Gabby Giffords shooting, have been at gun-free zones. The shooter in Aurora, Colorado had 7 theaters, all premiering the Batman movie, within 20 minutes of his apartment. He did not pick the closest nor the farthest. He picked the only one that had a gun-free sign in the window. We also never hear of all the crimes that have been stopped by brave citizens carrying a gun, often without firing a single shot. We already have somewhere over 2,000 gun laws on the books that can't stop these horrific crimes. Why would we think that even more laws would solve the problem? When it comes down to it, implementing new legislation on law-abiding citizens will not accomplish anything except make them less safe and make it more difficult to own currently legal guns. These laws will have absolutely no effect on criminals and crime. Until we sit down and have real conversations about what drives the acts and how to stop them and quit blaming inanimate objects, we will never solve anything. Bottom line, there is no sound reason to further limit our right to own firearms. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the Michigan Constitution, which states, all citizens have the right to own firearms to protect themselves and their neighbors, should be upheld under any circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Don Cretin, originally from Happy Rock here.
Buckeye boy.
Moonshine Valley, excuse me. But I'm here to represent whatever veterans that we have here, and myself, who is a Vietnam veteran, and who was drafted, and who didn't refuse to go into the military to fight for my country. And it seems like what our country is doing now is trying to take our rights away from us. And I know for a fact that, well, I know the fact that these people right here, none of us will ever give up our weapons, if it ever would come to that. Semi-automatic weapons, I hunt with a 30-06, that's semi-automatic. They're talking about assault weapons. Maybe I should just put a handle on the end of my 30-06 and I think maybe they'll take that away too. What I'm saying is 99% of the people that own guns know what they have them for. And one of the main things is to protect us against our own government. And that's what we're here for. And like I say, I don't think any of us would ever give up our weapons. And I want to thank the board.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Glass. I have a Rapid River address, but actually I live closer to Nema. I want to thank you for the opportunity this evening to address the commission. And since I'm going to essentially act as a spokesman, with your indulgence, I'll take a few extra minutes to try not to bore you too much. But I'd like to preface this by saying that I grew up, my early years I spent in a small town in northern Ohio. Little town back then, it was called Solon, Ohio. It was small. Now it's huge. It has its own freeway exchange and everything. This was back in the 50s, and that's what 1950s America was all about. And then I moved up here and came into Gladstone and a few other areas around here, and I thought, you know something? Here I am back in Solon. It's the turn of the next century, and I'm still in 1950s America. And that was very reassuring, because it says that the values that people have up here were the values that America had back then. That there are things that we treasured back then, our freedom, our abilities to work on our own, to have less dependency on government, really, really are heartfelt. And around here, that's the same feeling that I get. I get the feeling in Nema, I get the feeling here, generally in Escanaba as well. So this is something I don't think we want to lose. And for those of you that are significantly younger than I am, which is a lot of you around here, you better treasure this and hope that it doesn't go away, because there are forces out there that wish to take this from us. So I'd like to read a quick letter of introduction. Greetings. I'm here to introduce a newly formed group of responsible gun owners in Delta County, the Delta County Gun Owners Association. Our mission statement deals with the United States Constitution and specifically the Second Amendment. This amendment provides us with certain rights as it relates to ownership and use of firearms. While we recognize our rights, we also recognize that all rights come with attendant responsibilities. In this case, we have resolved to promote responsible gun ownership and use and to oppose measures that would prevent us from exercising our rights in a responsible fashion. It is our intent to engage with the community in such activities as communication of gun rights and any efforts affecting or jeopardizing them. This will also include debunking myths and misinformation regarding firearms, as one of our veterans mentioned already this evening. We are very concerned with promoting the safe ownership, handling, and use of firearms, and will be putting on seminars and demonstrations to inform the public of safe methods in all aspects of firearm use. We will inform the community when these events are scheduled. Several people in this room here tonight, Commissioner Gay is one of them, have taken it upon themselves to introduce safe gun use, ownership, and sportsmanship to youth groups around here. And they're to be commended for it. We all, those of us who learn gun safety and responsibility, we didn't learn it in school. We didn't learn it on TV. We learned it pretty much from our parents or our grandparents. I learned it very quickly from my grandfather with a razor strap when I tried to take his shotgun and walk out. And shotgun's bigger than I am. When I tried to walk out in the backyard and kill a chicken for dinner. And the lesson stayed with me, as did the scar. But again, I want to thank those folks in their activities, and many of us will support it. I know I will, and I hope others do as well. Ultimately, our intent is to be an asset to the community and to coordinate with the powers that be to ensure not just our rights as they apply to firearm ownership and use, but also what we must do to ensure understanding and compliance with applicable laws. We thank you for this opportunity to address this body, and we're asking you at this time for a motion of support for the resolution. And I believe you all have the resolution in front of you, and with your permission, I'd like to read this to those around here that don't. But before I do that, I want to mention that this has been well received at both the County Commission level and at the Escanaba City Council. In Escanaba, one of the council members there was concerned that there was a possibility that this may in some fashion restrict their ability to utilize their legislative power for the betterment of the community. Several of us talked this over, reread this numerous times, and we really don't feel that this restricts the abilities of any legislative body, and in fact assists them in their responsibility under the oath that they take to uphold the Constitution of the United States. We view this as something that assists them as well as us. And I'd like to read the resolution. This is a resolution for the preservation of the Second Amendment, and it is resolution number 2013-04. Based upon our rights secured in the Constitution of the United States and its Second Amendment, we request that the Gladstone City Commission adopt the following resolution. Therefore, be it resolved, the Gladstone City Commission in the state of Michigan shall protect the individual right to own firearms as stated in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, and be it further resolved that any attempt to place restrictions on any lawfully possessed firearms that are legal and unrestricted currently be rejected, and be it further resolved that the Gladstone City Commission shall support the Constitution of the United States, specifically the Second Amendment, and shall refrain from supporting any legislation and oppose any attempts to infringe upon these inalienable rights, and support the right of the people to keep and bear arms. So is the resolution. And if the commissioners have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them. And if I haven't got the answer, I have a whole group of experts to call upon. Yes, sir.
No, I was going to say this is actually time for public comment, so you actually have the floor.
Okay.
When it comes time for the resolution, if there is any questions from the commission, that's the time that we will take and have you come back to the podium, and we can address and ask any questions.
Okay,
at that time.
Mr. Mayor, just want to let you know that
I appreciate that,
we're
but I
all
want to
set-
make
all
sure
set to speak with you.
that everybody understands what rules that we try to follow.
Understood. And again,
Keyword there
thank
is
you
try.
for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I want to thank council for letting us all have a couple minutes to speak. I didn't speak at Escanaba because I wanted the meeting to be short, basically for council. And you're hearing the same message, but we heard something during council debate that I wasn't quite sure of, and you heard Mike mention that Councilwoman Baraboo agreed that she supports the Constitution, supports the Second Amendment, but didn't believe she could vote in favor of the resolution because she took an oath of office, just as you gentlemen did, same exact oath, I'm guessing. And somehow she viewed it that if she did that, then she wouldn't be supporting the Constitution. So I hope the feeling isn't that with you guys, but you know, when, like Mike said, if you read that resolution, there's nowhere in that resolution that at least I read, or the rest of the creators of the resolution, that is in there that if you do anything that the resolution says or adopt it, that you're going to be speaking against the Constitution or not upholding the Constitution. All it basically is asking that you support the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and locally you will not put more restrictions on firearms. And through my life, I've been involved in different things, and I can tell you, when I see restrictions on firearms, all that does is give the predator a chance. There's predators in wildlife, and that's usually where you hear the term, but there's also predators in the human population. And they look for areas where there are no guns, and it's a pretty easy victim that you have. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rory.
Evening, Jake Nyquist. I live just west of Gladstone, about 5 miles west of the Shell station. I'm involved in township government, and I was recently at a Michigan Township Association meeting downstate in Detroit. And there was a session where you could ask, township officials could ask lawyers questions. And I was amazed at how many township officials asked. One guy, I don't know, he ran out of the room before I could talk to him afterwards, but he asked, well, do we have to follow the U.S. Constitution and state law, or can we override that and pass our own ordinance against having concealed weapons at our meetings? I wanted to go ask him afterwards if he was smoking crack, because he just asked if he could override the U.S. Constitution and state law. And he was actually an elected official. And he was not the only one that asked that question. There was at least 5 other people that asked similar questions. There have been some municipalities downstate that have actually passed laws against concealed carry in their meetings or whatever, and it's been overturned and the lawyers were given case after case of precedents that was there. So I just want to mention to this this board here, I would like to see you pass this, and I would like to see you support all the local gun owners, support the Second Amendment, and this councilwoman in Escanaba, this Pat Baraboo, I think her name was. I think she should have to answer to what her vote was. I don't think she should be able to get away with, well, I don't think if I voted for that, I could do my job. No, that was kind of a cop-out. I don't know her, but I think that she's probably anti-gun, and she probably just used that as an excuse, although I'm not putting words in her mouth. That's just the perception that I get, but I would like to see, I'm not a member of this group yet, this local gun group here, but I will be very soon, and I would like to see this group, yes, I would like to see this, every single politician, if you run for office in Delta County, I don't care if you're the drain commissioner, you have to answer to this group and say what your stance is on the Second Amendment. I don't think you should be able to get elected to the drain commission or as dog catcher in this county if you're anti-gun. That's just the way I feel, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Still open for public comment. None? All right, we're gonna move on then. Let me find my agenda.
It looks like this.
I know. It was here. That's why. No, I moved it. Thanks, so.
He's offering to help you.
All right, going to move on now to the City Commission regular meeting minutes of March 11, 2013.
I move that we approve the minutes of March 11, 2013 as presented.
Support. Here we go again. This time I'm going to give it to Commissioner Olson. I think he was quicker. We have a motion by Commissioner Madden, seconded by Commissioner Olson. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, next item on the agenda will be the public hearing. We have this time that we're going to be setting a public hearing on proposed industrial development district number 3. Ms. Falcon?
As introduced at the last commission meeting, we are looking at currently zoned industrial property along the waterfront to be considered for industrial development district number 3. We currently have 2 districts within the town right now. Both our industrial parks are the districts right now, but so to create a 3rd industrial development district, we notified all the property owners in this area, and we need to hold a public hearing for public comment, and then a resolution by the City Commission is all that's needed to create this district. And what that would allow is any businesses or future development in this area could apply for tax abatement based on, new business, jobs, all everything that comes with a new business in the town. So that's why we're here.
Is there any questions for Ms. Falcon before we move on?
Just to clarify, this all currently is industrial. Right now, with the exception of the corner, I believe we discussed this previously, there is a corner section that is currently.
That's currently not zoned industrial, but the future land use map shows that parcel industrial, and due to the nature that it currently, sits at, in really industrial development is pretty much the only thing that could
It's the
go
best
there.
use for the land.
Right.
Okay.
Comment. We know that there will be a project that's proposed in this development district, and the other night the city of Escanaba also proposed a similar district for a similar type business for basic marine on their waterfront, so.
So let's beat him to the punch.
I don't know about that, but I just noted in the paper that it was a similar type business right on the waterfront. And the waterfront has always been touted as the most important asset for both communities, obviously. So.
I would agree with that, except for in this section right here, what we're looking at, unfortunately. All right, we still have to conduct the public hearings. Anything else before we go into the public hearing from the commission to Ms. Falcon? None? Okay. For those of you that are residents of Gladstone, the part we're looking at is down at the water treatment facility, along with the tanks. I know you can't see all that well. I'm not criticizing anybody for glasses by any means, but this is the section that's down at the point, okay? The old power plant now that's been demolished. Right now I'm going to set this for a public hearing. Anybody that has any interest in this whatsoever, please step up to the podium, state your name, and state your business as far as with this public hearing, and hopefully we can answer some questions. Public hearing starts. This is great, because now you guys get to listen for about a minute of dead silence.
Now just keep talking.
They don't want to hear me. Residents here in Gladstone are at the meeting right now? Okay. Do you know what is potentially going in this section? No? We were approached by a business in Escanaba who was actually, their business has expanded to at their current facility, so they needed to expand. And they approached a couple of different communities, Gladstone being one of them. And we were fortunate enough for him to call this location, hopefully, home to his expanded business. So we're fortunate to that regard. We're bringing in some new industrial business. Hopefully the long-term goal is to create some more jobs for the area. So that's be a win-win situation for everybody here in Gladstone and the community as well. Has it been about a minute? Yeah. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. This will be time for the commissioners now if they have any further questions, concerns. None? I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2013-03.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion supported by Commissioner Mattinen. Is there any further discussion? Okay, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried. Ms. Barry, do you need me to read this into?
You don't have
Okay.
to. I have it in the record.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move on now. Unfinished business, we do not have any. We're going to move on to new business. This will be the resolution number 2013-04, the preservation of the Second Amendment. I see Ms. Falcon and Commissioner Gay's name on it. I'm going to turn the floor over to Commissioner Gay.
What would you like to know? My opinion?
Sure.
Okay. Anyone who's had a conversation with me that's lasted longer than 60 seconds knows that I'm nearly rabid advocate of the Bill of Rights. I have read this resolution. I support it fully. I think it's indicative of a larger problem that we actually have to get to the point where we have people coming to this board to ask us to support something that, in my opinion, to anyone that can read, is so self-evident. It's what I believe to be a vacuum in leadership, and I think that if we're going to make any changes, and if we're going to move forward, that leadership is going to have to start at the local level, and I believe that this is indicative of said leadership.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Commission? I do have a couple of things. One, just, who was the gentleman? Where's he at? Where'd he go?
The little guy?
No, tall guy.
Tall guy?
Oh, he's way in the back there. No, the other tall guy.
Mr. Nyquist.
Taller than myself.
Mr. Nyquist.
I did have I had some concerns as well. I know that he mentioned about Councilwoman Baraboo. I had some concerns myself. I wake up every morning and I support the Second Amendment. I support the Constitution. I defend it as a law enforcement official. I didn't defend our country, unfortunately. I was dumb to that regard. But I did have some concerns. And the concerns wasn't so much that I don't support the Constitution or I'm not educated enough to understand the Second Amendment or the Bill of Rights. My concern was until I read the resolution thoroughly and researched exactly what a resolution is passed by local government, what it does garnish our ability to do and not to do. So I do educate myself. I do make sure that when I make a decision, at least I try to make as good of a decision that I possibly can. Okay. My concern was until I read this thoroughly. When it said lawfully in resolution, I appreciate that because with my job, it just happened this past Friday. Ever so often do we have people who are not lawfully carrying their guns, and that does concern me. That obviously is not the case with this group, and so I respect that portion of it. But I want to be forthright with you folks to let you know what my concerns were because I was on the fence with this, I'll be the first to admit, until I researched it and made sure that I was doing what I felt was going to be correct when I passed my vote. Okay, so there was some concern there. You were right in your regard as far as not being able to pass locally more restrictive gun laws. Mr. DeClaire, who just retired from his job, his role, he can chime in if he likes to make sure that I don't say something inappropriately. But there are Michigan law that has been passed along with federal law in the U.S. Constitution, obviously, that prohibits local government from passing some more restrictive gun rights. So you're correct on your assessment on that. I'm not anti-gun myself, but I am anti-unlawfully possessing. And unfortunately, I want to make sure I go home and my coworkers go home. And it, like I said, it just happened this past Friday. You may not think so. Escanaba is still a small town, but I'm here to tell you there is more that goes on around here locally than maybe you're aware of. So that's all I have to say. I want to let you folks know what my concerns were in case you were hearing that throughout the community. I figured it was at least as fair as I can do to let you folks know since you took the time to come to this meeting in support of something that you cherish so dearly. Thank you.
Move to approve the resolution as submitted.
I'd like to amend that, if you don't mind. I'd like to support that, but I would ask that the commissioner amend that to also send this to our elected representatives, a copy of this.
Absolutely. No
Support the amended.
Okay, I have a motion and supported by Commissioner Gay with the amendment. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now we get to move on to some more pressing issues. Next item on the agenda will be the chemical bids. You know what, I may just give a minute or so for people to clear out if they want to leave now. You're welcome, thank you. You're welcome, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Donnie, have a good trip back. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Take
Doing all
care.
right. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
As an FL dealer, I kind of greatly appreciate it.
Coming.
These new restrictions are limiting my ability to do my business.
That's what we're shooting for. No pun intended. Thank you. Next item will be chemical bids. Mr. Buckman.
Don't take it personal, Eric.
What you have before you is the annual chemical bids that we put out for the water and the wastewater plant each year. It's hard to get large chemical suppliers to bid up here because we are sort of out of the way. So basically the chemicals that bid, companies that bid are the ones that supply the paper mills and the mines, which there are only a few of them. So let's see, in all cases, requesting the low bid to be approved. Liquid aluminum sulfate, like General Chemical, to be approved, $500 a ton. Chlorine hydrate chemical at $92 per 100 pounds. Fluoride hydrate chemical at $58 per 100 pounds. And soda ash, we only received one bid, and that was from Hydrate for 38 cents a pound.
Any questions for Mr. Buckman? What's the reason for the soda ash? Why would you only receive one bid? Not that you did anything wrong. I'm just curious. Is it just not that big of
Yeah, there's only a couple of companies that produce soda ash in the U.S. and they're both out in Wyoming.
Oh.
I believe they're right across the street from each other, and so I get notices back that we're buying our chemical from the same supplier that supplies OCI, that supplies Hawkins, that supplies. So I guess
I think I probably ask the same question every year, I think.
Yeah. It's been a long time
Short-term
since
memory.
we've received another bid on the soda ash. So.
I move that we accept the low bids per recommendation.
Second.
Okay, a motion supported by Commissioner Olson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, Eric. Next item on the agenda will be the Nature Preserve.
Renee was not able to be with us tonight, so I'll just introduce it, and then there are other Nature Preserve people here in the audience if they would like to add. So is everybody familiar with the Nature Preserve? It's an area within our jurisdiction here that we've received grants to create a parking lot. We have some high school students go there for one of their classes. Renee's husband, actually, Tim Barron, through the Glasgow High School. And there's just, I can't even tell you all the grants that we've received to work in this area, but the city owns a small portion of it, through a deed through the state of Michigan. The balance of the property has been now leased to the Delta County Conservation District for 50 years, I think it is. So when this was created, when Howard Hollett worked here, he was kind of the leader of it. So we opened the account here and have maintained the financial records for the Nature Preserve since it opened. At this time, we would like to turn the funds over to the Delta County Conservation District. We're trying to eliminate, another step in the process. So we just kind of explained, we currently have about 12,000 in this account. However, we're finishing this 5-star grant right now. Once we receive that check, keep the admin portion of it, that money will be, added to this bank account. And then at that time, we would like to turn these funds over to the Conservation District. All of this money has been, given to this account specifically for nature preserve projects. So we're not using city money and giving it to them to do anything else. It's all been from day one, earmarked to do projects in the nature preserve. There is a plan, to do more in that area. Periodically, we can get updates on it. We'll still be working, city staff will still be working with the Conservation District on some of the projects. So we just thought to eliminate, if they're doing a project and they have access to the accounts, then they don't need to come to us to cut checks and pay bills and deposit money and that kind of stuff. So just cleaner.
Will these dollars be allocated specifically for our,
Yes.
okay, so they won't be
Yeah.
used in a different locale?
No.
Okay.
No.
I've been at several meetings with Rory and Howard both, and I think our relationship has been good with those folks. I think they have the right goals in mind for that very unique piece of land. There isn't much else you could do with it, but it serves the purpose of an outdoor classroom really well, so I have absolutely no problem with this.
Just have one.
Some of that money's already been spent by the Conservation District, just so you guys know.
Oh, sorry, Rory.
That's okay.
It's for the delayed public.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up, we're talking to Renee about 24,000 when it gets moved over. The Conservation District has already spent some of that money in doing the buckthorn removal and things, but the grants were through the city. So then what we did is we paid it rather than you guys, and then we turned around and submitted the bills to Renee, and then she's getting the grant to give it back. So some of it's already been spent, but the whole allocation will go in a separate pot, and it'll be allocated just for the marsh. One other thing is Darla had brought up, we for sure have a 25-year lease. We have then the option to pick up another 25-year lease. But I was talking to Senator Casperson the other day, because originally, I think Darla will back this up, and we were told that you could not buy it for $1. Well, the DNR just sold land for $1, so in May, we will be approaching them, since there's a new director, and just trying to purchase it for $1 and be done with this lease and all this other stuff.
Gotta love state government.
Yeah, me too.
Don't get them started.
And as Darla said, we will be forming an MOU, probably get it in writing a little more, because we need your assistance. You guys have the little first part of it, and then we have the back, and it's just going to be a wetland nature preserve, and both the district and the city, along with the Kiwanis and others, will just run it as that.
Have we capped that artesian well yet?
No, and we're going to try to do something out there, maybe rather than cap it, because it does put, water back up on the surface. Even
Cap
though
is
it's
probably the
below.
wrong word. I meant capitalize on it.
Capital, yeah. And right now it looks bad because there's a pipe coming up. There's a bunch of, growth on it, and it doesn't look very nice. But once we build the trail, we hope to do a little bit of rocking around there, and then we'll have a sign there so people can see it.
Have we tested it? Is it drinkable?
I haven't tested it, and you really don't want to go test things. But my guess is because we've tested every flowing well that the county has, because we run their park system, and they've all come back fantastic. So I would be really surprised, since it's a flowing well, same exact aquifer. I can't imagine anything's in it.
Good.
That's probably the cleanest water out there, even though you wouldn't want to grab onto the pipe.
Commissioner Mackey could probably.
I know exactly where that well is, because I used to play there when I was a kid. Go ahead. Right up there on the map. Go point to it, Rory, please. Please.
I can't remember what road that is.
Skelton Road's what we call is North 15th Street.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The nursing home's right here when you go to Kipling, just on the other side of the highway, so it's this whole piece. Where the ponds are.
We called it the Salu, and it's in Moonshine Valley, as Donnie was talking about. Yes, right behind, yes, you know where that is, of course.
The only question I have for Ms. Falcon is, do we have to do any type of if we pass this, do we have to do any type of a budget amendment for the current budget? Because we have to carry this on our don't we carry this on our budget? The funding?
It's in the capital projects
the
fund.
cap- so we
We
don't have
didn't
to-
budget anything for the 13-14 fiscal year
But if we-
activity to run through our books.
Okay, so it just shows 0. Okay, that's why I just want to make sure that we covered that basis. Very good. Thank you. That's all I had.
Move to approve the proposal.
Support.
Okay, a motion support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda will be the resolution number 2013-05, next Michigan Development District.
This is something, I've attended quite a few meetings in Escanaba. Just to give a little bit of background on this, there was legislation passed in 2010. Next Michigan Development Act, number 275 of 2010, to promote economic growth. And the way the act was created, no community or county in the UP met the requirements, so we couldn't even apply for the money. So in trying to work collaboratively, cooperatively with our neighbors, really Jim O'Toole was very instrumental, and Bill Vidia, he's the city manager in Marquette, got together, discussed this a couple times, and then eventually brought it to Delta County to the joint governmental meeting, which is there's usually a township representative at the joint governmental meeting. And then Bill brought it to Marquette County and got the county support, and they're working on townships up there. So if you combine the two, like the map shows there, Delta and Marquette County, when you combine the two, we do meet the requirements of this next Michigan Development Act. And at that time, we would be able to apply for, economic development funding. So we're asking Senator Casperson right now to introduce legislation to create the 5th district. There are 4 districts right now, all in Lower Michigan. And so we're asking them to create the 5th district, and that would be, right now, Delta and Marquette counties. But we're trying to word it in a way that other counties can come on board at a later time and still be part of this. So quite a few, I meant to look at my email again tonight before the meeting, quite a few townships in Delta County have already supported this resolution. City of Escanaba and Delta County have already supported it. And once we get as many letters of support or resolutions of support that we can, next week I think it is, Jim O'Toole, Nora from the county, Bill Vidia from Escanaba, and then
Marquette.
Scott. I forget-
Marquette.
Oh, Marquette, sorry. Scott, I forget his last name, the Marquette
Scott
County.
Urbish.
Urbish. The 4 of them are gonna go to Lansing and testify, why this would benefit the UP and that kind of stuff. So to qualify for funding, sometimes you have to, think outside the box and be creative, and I think that's what we're trying to do here, to show Lansing or whoever created this next Michigan Development Act that we too in the UP need these resources, and right now we don't qualify for them.
Is this I was looking at some of the benefits to this. New personal property tax exemption pursuant to Act 206. Is that different, or is it than what we currently, because we've granted personal property tax exemptions previously. Is it a different percentage?
No.
This is a different act. Personal property that we've approved have either been part of PA 198 or PA 328.
Okay.
Those
So
are the
this,
acts that we've acted on in the past.
Act
to
206
approve.
is a general property tax act, is what they're referencing. It's been in existence since the 1890s.
1893, yeah.
1893.
Yeah, it just says new personal property tax exemption.
I think you said you said something about you weren't sure where this originated. I think it must have originated from the governor's office, because the governor's pushing for cooperative ventures between local units of government wherever they can. And so we're not going to get any type of economic development assistance in any way on our own, so we've got to collaborate with a bunch of other folks so that if something happens up here, we all benefit. It might be in Gladstone, it might be someplace else. And I think a great example of that would be our recent project with Escanaba Township. So that's the way it's going.
Anything else?
I move we approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion supported by Commissioner Olson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Next item on the agenda will be the budget amendments for fiscal year 2012, 2013.
And I am here to present the second and final round for the budget amendments for 2012-2013 fiscal year. I am just going to review the first couple sheets in the packet, the fund balance reviews. There's quite a few budget amendment sheets attached, so if you do have any questions, if you just want to let me know. First of all, I will start with the solid waste. With the proposed budget amendments tonight, they will be transferring to fund balance just over $37,000. Going on down to the Major Street Fund, with the proposed budget amendments tonight, they will be transferring to the fund balance $16,000, as well as
Just a few years ago, that fund was, you had a deficit reduction plan with state, along with the local street, correct?
Correct.
along with the local street fund, which with the budget amendments tonight, they'll be transferring almost $21,000 to fund balance. So
That's the way
those
you're supposed to do it.
those two funds have come a long way in the last couple of years. Equipment fund, I did make a mistake. It's supposed to be transferring from fund balance, just about $10,000. That fund, I think, has been struggling for the past number of years, and I know that you know that we've been looking at this fund and trying to create different ways of how to turn that fund around. And now I will just move on to the general fund, which is the one that has probably the most amount of budget amendments in it. When we first had our budget put together, we proposed to transfer from fund balance $43,000. That was the original budget. In October, with the first round of budget amendments, we brought that down to $15,000 that we were proposing to transfer from fund balance. With this round of budget amendments, we have two items that we are deferring to next fiscal year. The timber sale revenue, he has asked for a one-year extension, so we are deferring that timber sale revenue of $21,000 to next fiscal year. And also with the MISHTA admin money that that Renee was hoping to bring in, she is deferring about $30,000 to next fiscal year. We also, with the new harbor grant, one of the stipulations was we had to set up the harbor in a separate fund. And that is pulling out of the general fund a net profit of about $37,000. We also had the City Hall HVAC project that we did this year. And I am going to refer to City Manager Falcon.
Vicky's not part of our City Hall subcommittee, so all the details are not, anyway. So when we did the HVAC program or grant and asked, we awarded Fraser Mechanical to come in and do the heating and cooling system. That total price tag was about $60,000. We, working with WPPI on some grant money through EO money, energy optimization, they analyzed our gas bills on the heat side, and the results had to show an 8-year payback, and the results didn't show an 8-year payback, although the boiler we have today is how many times more efficient than the one we had, you know, a lot. So we didn't qualify for WPPI energy optimization money. However, there is another source of money through WPPI that we were able to capture about $16,000 of CTC funds. It stands for Commitment to Community. The community came out and said, we want to stay here, you know, do what you can to stay here. So we were able to capture $16,000 of that amount of money. If you remember, a year ago, we did earmark $10,000 of timber sale money that we received in the 11-12 fiscal year. So 16,000 WPPI, 10,000 timber sales. We were able to absorb some of it within the current budget. And then the other proposal that I'm recommending tonight that is included in these numbers is we transfer $25,000 from the electric fund. It's just a temporary thing. Could easily be paid back next year when we get this 21,000 timber sale money, plus the $4,000. I, you know, plan to pay them back in full, definitely. But, you know, looking back, and we talked about this at the City Hall Subcommittee, we had to do something with heating and cooling. I mean, it would just, heating with space heaters in every office. I mean, our electric, you know, usage, that was just being wasted. Not able to cool the offices and using fans and whatever. The system we've had, the air conditioners this past summer was very efficient. This winter, very, very few complaints on the heat side. You know, we're still working on getting all the zones adjusted, but we had to do it. It was just time. We're deferring maintenance that, you know, we can't anymore. So
basically, the transfer from electric fund, we're looking at, we were heating with space heaters.
Right.
That's City Hall money anyway. 'Cause we had a high electric bill.
I think more what you're really trying to get your arms around between the both of you is what the goal is of the City Commission for the fund balance and general fund.
Yeah.
And now's as good a time as anybody for one of you to tackle that and explain what we talked about at the budget hearings this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, we said the goal would be 2 months operating expenses, which came in at, I think, $297,000. So with these amendments right here, it brings us down to $284,011. However, when you look at each department in the general fund, the Budget Act requires you to amend the budget when you spend more than you originally budgeted. It doesn't require us to amend down when we're not going to spend everything we had originally budgeted.
Correct.
So looking through, I mean, we could spend, you know, days analyzing each department to the penny, and you know, and bring this down and still show $297,000 here. There's some departments that have, you know, thousands of dollars left. We've got 5 days left. Are they going to spend that in, you know, 5 days? No. So we feel very comfortable that, you know, after final bills, you know, come in through March, we still cut checks in April and they get charged back to March. We've got one more payroll that comes back to this current fiscal year. After that analysis, you know, by the end of April, we'll probably have a pretty clear picture of actually what the general fund balance is going to be. I mean, this is worst case scenario, $284,000. It's going to be more. We just, you know.
And this was another fund that just a few years ago was in very bad financial shape. This year at our budget hearings, we tried to push to add some expenditures that we'd cut out in previous years in order to fix this fund. We weren't able to do everything we wanted to do, but we were able to do some of the things that we feel we should be doing.
Well, I think we also made it clear, and I think staff and Ms. Falcon also have diligently done their best with what has been afforded to them through state changing different programs and the EVIP now instead of revenue sharing and so on and so forth. But just so the public knows, they've done an outstanding job. I was on part of the commission when the general fund was in dire need of revamping. And I think Ms. Falcon and her staff have done a commendable job of getting it to a level where we're comfortable. We're not excited, but we're comfortable. And they've done a really good job on that part of it. And I say not excited because we never know what's coming out of Lansing. It can change.
I believe in a snapshot, a few specific points, reduction in revenue from the state of $200,000, an increase in retirement payment by nearly $100,000 for this coming year, increase in health care of 9%, and yet we still have a very good, I agree, it's not where I'd like to be either, but I think it's a very good, commendable job at getting that fund balance to that level. Because I don't think anyone could look at what we've been doing and say, well, you really got a little carried away spending dollars that you really shouldn't have. I think anyone could look at our budgets the way they've been done the last couple of years and say, you guys are really doing a responsible job. So I think you and your staff should be commended for that. I would move that we amend the budget as presented.
Support. Okay, a motion and supported by Commissioner Mackey. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Schritt, did you have anything else?
I did not have anything
Okay.
else.
I want to make sure we didn't cut you off. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. All right, next item on the agenda will be the proposed budget for fiscal year 2013, 2014.
The proposed budget, we are looking at just over $11.5 million for all the funds combined. The only thing that it didn't really change, but at the the third budget workshop that we had, March 6th was that, I think it was, when we talked about pretty much general fund only, we chose option B for the MERS payments, which we were originally budgeting transferring from fund balance like $98,000. By going with that option B, only reducing our amortization schedule by 1 year every year instead of 2 years every year. That was $34,000 to the general fund. So we were borrowing $64,119 from fund balance. Everything else is the same budget that was presented in the budget workshops.
So we're actually, it's less.
Right.
The other major item that I think you should talk about is we're adding a code enforcement officer so that properties are maintained to a certain minimum standard, which is something we haven't been able to put a lot of time into for the last several years because we've been straightening out the financial house of the general fund.
Is there any other questions or comments for Ms. Falcon? Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'd move we approve the budget as presented.
Support.
Okay, a motion supported by Commissioner Gay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I almost stumbled through that one by accident, didn't I? All right, next item on the agenda will be the Hannahville 2% grant application for engineering for non-motorized trail system. Ms. Sanderson.
Good evening. I'm going to speak briefly, and then I'm going to turn the podium over to Mrs. Caroline Kennedy. She has been doing a lot of work preparing a Hannahville proposition for 2% monies to fund a trail system that will be a portion of a future trail system that could connect Gladstone to Escanaba. Caroline sits on my rec board. Her and Russ Hall, it really is their baby, and they went out and they They did some legwork and they came up with some engineering costs. And I proposed to them that if they wanted to get it done, then they could do that, and they did that. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Caroline because she really has done all the work on this.
Well, good evening, commissioners.
Hello.
Okay, so one of the big goals, I think, of our communities for a long time is to be able to have a connecting pedestrian bike path between, oh my gosh, the cities of Escanaba and Gladstone, right? Wouldn't think it would be that hard, but there is a little bit of difficulty from where the Gladstone Trail currently ends along Lake Shore. You know where it ends right across from Marble? Right there. If you were to take that out, you know, imagine going out along US 2 along the lake shore to old US 2, which is what goes down then again along the waterfront instead of up along by the terrace, goes just down there. So that distance is 2.1 miles. Here's the issue. Not very much of it is actually in the city of Gladstone. Most of it is in Escanaba Township. But the issue is, I would understand it for Escanaba Township, is they can't really access it unless they access it through Gladstone. So I think, and I don't really know the history, but I'm thinking no one's really taking the lead to try and get that accomplished. But once it is accomplished, it would serve, well, let me segue here for a second. When MDOT does the bridge by the dam in Wells Township, they are including a pedestrian bike lane. I don't know if it's an extra lane or if it's attached, so don't hold me to the specifics. But that will then essentially connect the residents of Escanaba and Wells Township to Pioneer Park. So if we could get the section from Gladstone to Old US 2 connected, then we only have this teensy tiny little bit that's down and around Pioneer Park. And for that, we think there's a lot of grant money available because it's a pretty easy sell for the state departments and things on that when you've got all of the pieces coming together except for a small part.
When I was at your recreation board meeting, you had indicated you've been talking with MDOT already.
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman by Vince Bevins, right?
Right.
About connecting that last little piece?
Correct. Yes, MDOT's very familiar with this issue and project. They've looked at it over the years. They've talked with any number of governmental entities that are interested and involved. Their initial assessment is that it's a doable project, but you really have to have a feasibility study and preliminary engineering design done. So we got a quote for that for $14,000, and that is the grant that I'm asking. We filled out all the grant information. I'm asking that the city approve that request for that grant money from Hannibal so that we can get over that little stumbling block, get past that hurdle, and get a connecting trail. I also think it's absolutely, not only does it coincide with that 2017 change that MDOT will be doing on the Escanaba Wells Township end of it, but you know, right now we're the #1 trail state in the country. The governor's put his kind of stamp of approval for the economic activity that trails generate. And as well, we've got some huge community health initiatives and concerns that are out there. And so, as well, MDOT has adopted its Complete Streets philosophy for alternative modes of transportation. And so when you combine all those things, I think now is the time to do it. And so I would just ask for your blessing on that.
You didn't mention walkable communities.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but we got to connect the two. We have a great walkable community right here in Gladstone. We've got a great walkable community in Escanaba, and we need to get all of our people to be able to go. It's going to be so great if you can have all these, you know, events that evolve around those trails. You know, you get your, we've got the heritage run this year, you know, and they're gonna be running on the highway because we don't have a trail. It's crazy. Not to mention it's a beautiful area. So I think people would really enjoy it. So we're just asking for your blessing upon that and your permission to be able to ask for that, submit that grant.
It is 100% funded by Hannahville monies. There is no matching funds required.
Is there any questions from the commission? I just have two. How many, and Nicole may know this, or Ms. Falcon, how many grants are we able to, is it through a fiscal year or a calendar year?
Hannahville
From
has
Hannahville.
2 cycles. March
cycles.
31st is their first deadline, and September 30th is the second deadline. We can apply we can send as many applications as we can. They have to be, you know, approved by a local governing body.
Okay. All right.
I asked Scott Hero that. He's a member of the,
He's the chief financial officer. out
yeah,
there.
at Hannahville.
Okay.
And I said, well, what if, you know, the police department for a car and Parks and Recreation, you know, both go through the city? And he said they look at each application submitted separately, and like the city of Gladstone can get 2 grants and, you know, somebody else may not get any. They look at each application separately.
Okay. That answers that question. And then, there's a couple more. How come, does anybody understand, or, excuse me, know why Wells Township isn't looking at this? Has anybody?
Build it, they will come.
It seems like most of it through Wells Township that we're looking for?
No, not really. The connecting piece that we're looking for would be 2.1 miles. It's
From
really
here? Okay,
Gladstone to Old US 2, and that would be Escanaba Township,
gotcha.
which they can't really access
Yep.
because of,
Okay.
you know.
And Vince has told us that if we get our preliminary plans and our feasibility study in, when funds become available, we're that far ahead of the game. You know, Carolyn had mentioned, you know, 2017, that seems like a long ways away. It really isn't. We've been talking about this for 13 years since I've been here. So once we get this study done and the preliminary engineering done, we give that to Vince and he's ready to roll with it. So when funds become available, we're already that far ahead of the 8 ball, you know, so we're ready to go. At that time, then you have to make a decision, you know, do you want to put, you know, funds towards it? Do you want to, you know, capitalize on the MDOT money that's going to be available? Is that something that we want to do? This is just the engineering portion of it.
Well, that was what I was gonna ask, are you far enough into the process to where you've determined funds, you know, source of revenue, fund source for this project, or, I mean, you mentioned a couple in what you just said, the MDOT and that type of thing.
There are several different departments through which it would qualify for funds. You know, obviously, depending on when the timing is, it will depend on, everything's competitive now, so it will depend. But if we can get a feasibility study that says it's a feasible project, all you need to do is get together the money sources, then we'll be working on bringing everybody to the table.
Well, I think
That's when Wells and Escanaba and Township and the city of Escanaba will get involved. Although they have a core group of people working on it right now, they have a group that's trying to get this done. It kind of stalled out. So once again, if we build it, they will come.
Well, I think it's a great project. I think the UP, many of the cities, if not all of them to some extent in the UP, underutilize their waterfront property. So I think it's a great project, and I hope everything works out. Obviously with budgets, we were discussing budgets previously. Contribution from the general fund is always a concern for projects of this nature. But obviously, we're a long ways away from having to make a determination how much, you know, if any, that we would be
When I attended the Parks and Recreation Board meeting, you asked me to push for this from the commission level, and I spoke with the city manager about in the future, if we needed to come up with a local match, we'd be looking at Dr. Mary Cretin's money, and it's out there far enough that you could think about that in a future budget year.
Well,
That's more likely what we'd use.
Would that be able to be used for that application?
You seem to think so, right?
Because that would be a great source for, you know.
Once again, we have to keep in mind that this is going to be mostly an MDOT project. So this is going to be something that's, you know, they work with large amounts of dollars, you know, and different things when they do road projects. So to add a pedestrian, you know, trail system could be something that they could put into their budget in 2017, especially with the governor really trying to push for these pathways and these connectability things. So that's, you know, to itemize or to pinpoint a revenue source right now is probably premature. But
It was probably
yeah.
a premature question, but more along the lines of,
Is it-
we're so sensitive to that right now that.
And do we want another plan that's gonna sit on a shelf, and do we want this, and do we want that?
Right.
That's
I think
exactly
I
right.
think it's a great
But-
project, and I hope it happens.
The health department too is another source. We received a lot of money from the local health department for trail system within the city, so maybe that's another source we can look at too.
If they can make this happen, I asked them to consider doing North Lake Shore Drive, so we go out that way along the waterfront. Because right now, you have to walk on the road in order to do that, so.
I just had one more question. I didn't want to leave Miss Kennedy up there high and dry by herself, Miss Anderson, so that's why I was wondering. This is saying for an engineering, preliminary engineering. It sounds like you're saying feasibility. Is it more for a feasibility study, or is it something we can push Lansing for MDOT if the governor is already trying to push these types of projects to begin with? Isn't it something that we could address through our congressional leaders to look at drafting a engineering plan for this already? Or no?
No.
No.
We've,
Why?
we've,
Why would I
been
think that?
we've been given the no, and it is a feasibility study and preliminary design.
Okay.
Is what it is, so.
I just figured,
Once
like
we
you were
can
saying,
get
if
that-
MDOT has the money, let's try and get them to push for the engineering plans.
They'll do
Yeah.
the actual construction portion.
Okay.
We tried that.
Oh. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd move that we approve the application as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and supported by Commissioner Olson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Very good. Well. Give me a second here. I'm trying to. Yeah, I was gonna say, does the commission have any opposition if we move to payment of the bills, next item? And then we can continue on after that for the Gladstone Public Safety Officers Union Agreement and the Gladstone Public Safety Command Union Agreement? Because it looks like we may be going to executive session in case it carries over for a little bit.
Let's do that.
Allow public comment before we go to executive session.
Yeah. Okay, when we do that. Sperry, do I need to just go by the consent? We need a motion. Thank you. All right, let's go to the payment of the bills then.
We have bills tonight before us in the amount of $32,479.16. So these should be the final two bills from Fraser Mechanical for the heating and cooling system. He had to return or exchange a few things, and then we were waiting for him to actually insulate some pipes downstairs, so that would be the end of the City Hall project there. Lake and Pond Solution, we have to secure these people to spray the harbor for weeds before we open in the summer. Memberships. Pretty
Is there any
difficult.
questions? Yeah, is there any questions, Mr.? I like the fact that it's only 32, I say only. I've seen a lot bigger, but it's nice to see that's a lower number.
Nope. I move that we pay the bills as presented.
A second.
We have a motion and supported by Commissioner Matten. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. All right. Tell you for the benefit of the public that's still here, when we go with the city manager's report, if that's all right.
I just have a couple things tonight. Hugo, I don't know if you wanted to explain the letter from the Delta Solid Waste. You're the city's representative on the landfill board. They want to make a change in their bylaws. Do we have any issues with that? Doesn't really
No.
affect the city.
No, we don't. It just makes it a little more convenient for the members, I think.
Okay.
That way, the meeting times are always on the Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday, rather than that 1 month
Okay.
on Wednesday, you know, so.
So we just
No
gave that
issue.
to you for information, but wanted to just double check with Hugo on that. I didn't see any issues from the city, you know, standpoint. Just a reminder, this Wednesday night, all the property owners along Delta Avenue from 11th to 14th have been notified of a meeting right here at 5 o'clock, just giving them more details about the project that's going to start here mid-April. And then at 6:30 Wednesday night, there's 3 property owners affected by the North 9th Street project. Same companies doing both projects, so one day you might see them working on Delta Avenue, one day they might be on North 9th. Our city crews are doing some of the work where they can, so we just wanted to get the community together and these property owners specifically. Please, I hope somebody will attend from the commission to, thank you,
I got
Jim.
it marked down.
Okay. Just so the residents know, you know, this isn't the first time we've discussed it. We've been planning for a couple of years. For the North 9th Street project, that was a Category F grant that we applied for 2 years ago, so
I've
that's
heard
sometimes how long
I had heard some
planning
of the
takes.
residents along Delta Avenue were surprised by that project, so I think this is an opportunity for them to come out and see what's
Sure.
going on.
Well, I think one of the nicest things will be happening at this meeting is, I think there was a misconception that we're looking at taking more property away
No.
from the
We're
landowners.
working
which is-
100% in the city right away.
Right, so, matter of fact, I think there actually will be a little bit of a green space that's gonna be added.
We have a presentation put together that's,
Oh, okay.
I hope they see by the presentation, you know, the
It'll look
the
nice, I
improvements
think,
that
when
it's
it's
gonna
all
make.
done, yeah.
Definitely. And the timeline, June 28th, I think that it will be all done. So I said, it has to be done by the 4th of July. We
Weather-
can't have half of our street closed for the 4th of July, so hopefully the weather will cooperate with the projects and they'll be done by the end of June. Then I just wanted to mention our next meeting for UP Engineers and Architects at the Sports Park is Wednesday, April 10th. We've got flyers up on the counter there. I think this was emailed to everybody. So we already had the one meeting and a lot of people were invited. They were able to, you know, voice, we would like to see this or that up in any one of the areas up there. Now they're coming back to us with some preliminary maps and designs. So I'm anxious to see what they've come up with. And then by the end of May, I think the final plan will be done.
Can I stop this really quick?
Sure.
Ms. Berry, on something like that, do we need to post it if we get, just in case we have more than 2 commissioners attending, so it doesn't get that
It has been
It's
posted
posted,
out
so
there,
it
but
is-
it's
okay.
just posted as a general, you know, meeting. So if you guys go, you're not acting on behalf of, and acting as the commission.
Right.
You're just there to listen, observe, not make any decisions.
No, that, and no comments, that'd be the best thing.
Right, you know, so it would be, you know, matter of chance if you all ended up there,
Okay.
but it's posted, it's not posted as your meeting, so.
Right.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
And I actually have a handout tonight. Hope Eric is still here. When we approve rates, Eric always refers to this wastewater study every couple years. All of the entities get together and submit to one source what we currently charge for water and wastewater. We will bring this to the meetings in June when we set the rates for this year as well. But just wanted to share it with you. Look it over when you have time. Gladstone is on page 2, about in the middle. So I printed this in order of highest rates down to lowest rates. So we're middle point, below middle point. So if you wanted to look that over between now and June so you're comfortable with what we propose in June, that would be wonderful. If we have any questions, I'm sure Eric would like to talk to you about that before then. So speaking of MDOT, I have a meeting with them this Thursday regarding with Josh King's project that's going to go in on the end of Delta. We preliminarily talked about updating Delta Avenue and maybe the parking lot and somehow connecting our boardwalk around the end of Saunders Point down there. So I've preliminarily talked with Vince Bevins locally at MDOT, and we're gonna get Matt Wiedela on the phone. He's from Lansing. And looks like there's 2 grants that we could pair together, one for roads, one for trails. So it's just preliminary at this point, but if we need, you know, your approval for grant applications, we'll bring them back to you. So we're constantly looking for, you know, grants and pairing things together. And actually, one of these grants, because he's proposing to create 7 jobs this year, that determines the dollar amount for that grant. So when we have development like this, it behooves us to look into these sources of revenue to help, you know, the city. If we're going to increase vehicular traffic down there, we need to have a good road to handle that, and a parking lot if they're going to park and view what's going on down there, or whatever, connect to the trail system. Or
It'd be nice if we can complete that project like that, because I think it's a benefit for both.
Definitely.
For Mr. King and for the
Yep.
community and the citizens. I think it'll be nice when they start seeing what he's proposing to bring in.
Exactly. So we'll start that. I've asked Renee and Barry just to sit in on the phone call too, in case
Good.
they need to add some input as far as roads or something goes. And I'll be on vacation next week.
So will I. Good for you.
Spring break.
Very good.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Let's, City Commission Committee reports. I know Ms. Falcon already touched on with you, Commissioner Mattinen, with the landfill bypass. Board of Commissioner reports, kind of the same thing. I know you touched on with the rec department. Okay, now we're going to get to public comment. So give everybody an opportunity that's still left. If they have anything they'd like to address to the commission and any issues, feel free to do so. Just ask if we still would go to the podium, state your name and business, and not like it was in the first public comment, now was it? That's all right. All right, we'll move on there. Let's go to commissioner comments. Commissioner Mattinen.
I just wanted to make the commission aware, I'm going to be attending the Capital Conference in Lansing. It's the second full week in April. And so the conference actually starts on Tuesday, but I'll be traveling down on that Monday, so I want to be excused from that particular commission meeting. I'm going to have audience with our representative and our senator from this area and share some concerns that I think we all have here. And if there's anything that the commission, any individuals here want me to bring as a message or any concern, if you want to give me that information, when I sit down with them, I'll share it with them.
Do you have a particular amount of listed items that are we limited to?
No.
Okay.
But probably time-wise, I've got about a half an hour with each one, so I'm gonna have to speak fast and point across. But so anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Very good. Thank you.
That's all I
Mr.
have.
Olson?
I noticed that we're still waiting for the marina approval. What is the background there?
Marina approval?
Seems like I picked that up somewhere in the rec board report or somewhere.
We submitted our original plan to Michigan Waterways, and they, I don't know, something changed. And they came back to us and they said, both of our gangways have to be ADA compliant. We were only proposing for one of them to be ADA compliant, the one that actually gets to the handicap docks. But the other gangway, none of the docks need to be ADA, that's why we're kind of confused. But so we had to go back to the engineer temporarily, redesign. We've put in a switchback. So it just changes the design a little bit. We'll go down gradually, then we'll come back, and then those 2 docks will be off of that extension there. And then the rest will be the same along that north wall. So then that has been submitted back to Waterways. We should hear maybe by Friday at the latest.
Okay.
And then we've already told the company that's building the docks too, you know, for him, it's just ordering a little bit more material, you know, to have material for that gangway that comes back, or that switchback that comes back, so.
Okay, so that was basically the holdup.
Right, yeah, but we just work internally on that. We've gotten all the approvals we need from the commission to go ahead with that.
There's an item on the website today from the Parks and Recreation Director saying they still figured they'd get the project done. I think said by July 1.
Well, it's supposed to be June 1, that was a mistake.
Okay.
It's June 1. Yeah.
I thought.
May 15th, our harbor will be open. So anybody on the west end, they can put their docks in, the launch will be open, all that will be open. So as soon as we get this final approval from Waterways, we can start pulling the old docks whenever we can get through the ice or whatever.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gay?
I just have two things. First, I want to commend the commission for seeing the merit in that resolution. It pertains to the Second Amendment. I'm glad that people are actually realizing that our style of government requires that you put in time and that you go do things. It's not just something you sit back and watch happen. It is not just a spectator sport. Secondly, there was an unfortunate accident at the intersection that occurred on US 2 there by South Hill Road. I stopped in and was talking to Manager Falcon in regards to some thoughts that I had, and actually Commissioner Mattinen may be able to provide some insight. I know it's very difficult to get speed limits changed and that type of thing, but I did, realize that from St. Ignace to Menominee, this is the only part of US 2 that goes through a town that close to this size that's 55 miles an hour. I'm not saying that would have an effect on, would have affected the outcome. We have no idea actually, at least I have no idea actually what happened. What I do recognize, and what I've seen many times and has been reiterated by our PSOs, is that intersection specifically is a very common location where vehicles blow red lights. And again, I have no idea in this particular case if that occurred or not, but it's been, I've been told that it's a very common ticket that's written. And if you think about it, if you look at just the way that particular intersection set up, I know it was changed because of a problem where there were a significant amount of fatal accidents that occurred there. And since that's changed, I've been told by EMS personnel that it is a significant improvement. However, the fact remains, I don't know if it would be feasible to, I've seen them in different parts of the state and in other states where you actually have warning lights that are timed with the stoplight, that even though you're on a long stretch of straight road and you can see that's green, based on being timed for the speed limit that you're traveling, those warning lights can let that person know that by the time they get to that green light that they see a country mile off, it's going to be time to stop, so it'll allow them, especially and most importantly probably the semi-trucks, that they can start slowing down. It just seems to me that if we have if we have a situation where we have a lot of red lights being run, it's just a matter of time and before something like this happens again. I don't know if that's something that's possible. I don't know what, I know MDOT has all kinds of studies and things that have to be done before something specifically, like a speed limit change can be looked at. But South Hill Road and M35, they probably consider limited access, but it's limited because you only have 2 spots where everyone that lives on the bluff can get up there. So I actually think it's more of a choke point where everybody has to access the bluff from those 2 spots. So you have a large amount of traffic, condensed in those 2 access points. So it's just a thought. I don't know that, I don't know if it's something that they can at least give us a response on, if it's a possibility, whatever.
The other day when I was in front of the Super Value and you and I were talking, Randy Walter came through and he suggested the same thing, a warning that light's coming up. And then, well, do I remember when I worked here, where the officers that you worked with would express a lot of real frustration when they'd have to police a really bad accident with, I think they said the MDOT's response was until we have enough fatalities in an intersection, we're not going to change it. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say that exactly, but MDOT controls those intersections because of the status of a U.S. highway. They do look at statistical data from the intersections. They look at the design, the distances involved, the speed limit involved. The only thing I can say is that MDOT does control that corridor. We don't.
You just get to go clean up the mess.
Yeah, well, we can't adjust the speed limits there like we can on the city streets, so,
Right.
so it is an MDOT decision that they need to look at through there, so. And those concerns, including the one you specifically mentioned about warning, was brought to the city the other day, by a citizen that called in as well, and I forwarded that recommendation to one of MDOT's engineers, so they're aware that we at least had been told that by, some people, and usually anything, if we get a recommendation from someone, I usually forward those to MDOT.
Something that I've seen in my travels just recently in Florida, where they have major intersections, they'll have an actual clock up there that'll tell you how many seconds you have before that light at the next intersection turns. And I thought, boy, how nice that is, You know then if you're going to have to start applying the brakes, or if you're going to have a panic stop, or you're going to try to run a light. And so something like that might be a good spot for something like that. It might eliminate, because I know I travel that all the time because I live up there. And, just because the light's green, that doesn't mean go there.
Nope.
Because especially the larger trucks, when they've got a head of steam and they're doing 60, 65, like most of us do in that corridor, when they get within 100 yards or so, they're not going to stop them, so they have to run them. Otherwise, they're going to end up in a ditch or worse, So I think something like that, like you've suggested, there might be real helpful for that type of thing.
Yeah, I just it kind of, the one PSO that advised me that was something that he run into commonly. The common response from specifically the truck drivers that he encountered with with an infraction of that nature was, well, I don't want to torch on my brakes. Well, again, if you knew that light was going to change by the time you get there, based on the speed limit, you wouldn't have to torch on your brakes. You would be able to slow down gradually. And
what we might be able to do, Director Geyer's here tonight, obviously, and he's listening to everybody's concerns. We might be able to solicit the assistance from the state, along with his officers, in running an enforcement section through there. I know there's coming up pretty soon, I think, is seatbelt enforcement.
That area actually is used quite often
Yeah,
as
it
an
is.
enforcement corridor. When they have grant-driven enforcement by the Office of Highway Safety Planning, the area between M35 and the South City limits is used quite extensively, because they know that there's concerns in that location of speed and issues with the light, as far as people running the light, and we make stops there all the time. It's just an area we try to do as much as we can at.
I oftentimes see officers there, often.
Good. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mackey?
Commissioner Gay and I and the city manager spent all day doing labor negotiations last week. And then I read American City and County where they're talking about pension fund analysis, and we've already alluded to the unfunded position of our pension. So that was a lot of what we talked about on Wednesday. And then what we had been expecting, the state decided to take over the city of Detroit. That's why we want to keep our financial house in order. We don't want someone else telling us how to do it. What I read.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Very good, thank you. I don't have anything. I know that's shocking. So, I'm set there. We'll move back up now under new business. We'll go to letter H, Gladstone Public Safety Officers Union Agreement.
Can we do them?
Individually, or can you do them together?
You want to make the motion to go into executive session to discuss both.
Perfect.
Both, then you don't have to come back out, go back in. But after you're done discussing both, you'd have to come out and take any action out here and then continue on. So,
Perfect.
rather than hopping back and forth.
Save us going back and forth.
Yeah.
I would move that we enter executive session to deal with, to discuss the Gladstone Public Safety Officers Union Agreement and the Gladstone Public Safety Command Union Agreement.
Support. Okay, a motion supported by Commissioner Mackey. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes?
Commissioner Mattinen,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Mayor Hunter.
Yes. Okay, we're in executive session. Folks, you're more welcome to